In Haiti, dozens of demonstrators held a rally in the hills of the capital, demanding an end to violence and the resignation of the country's prime minister and the Presidential Transitional Council. Vatican authorities are finalizing preparations for the celebration of the conclave in the Sistine Chapel, where 133 cardinals will gather to elect the new pontiff on May 7th. And the United Nations, Palestinian and international organizations rejected an Israeli plan of action towards Gaza, which intends to only allow humanitarian aid access in militarized zones. Hello and welcome to From the South. My name is Belén de los Santos. I'm from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. We now begin with the information. In Haiti, dozens of demonstrators held a rally in the hills of the capital demanding an end to violence and the resignation of the country's prime minister and the Presidential Transitional Council. This latest rally comes one day after hundreds of Haitians gathered in the capital, Port-au-Prince, to honor community leaders killed during clashes with criminal groups. The protesters denounced that the growing humanitarian crisis in the country has left 1,600 dead and more than 500 wounded from January to March alone. The Haitian National Police has had difficulties in its fight against criminals due to the insufficient number of police personnel and funds from the mission supported by the United Nations. 13 workers of a small mine linked to gold production were killed by miners working illegally in a northern region of Peru after being held hostages for several days. The kidnapping and subsequent murder of the workers occurred in a small artisanal mine operating within the concession area in the province of Patas. The crime took place despite the fact that the region is in a state of emergency with police and military presence due to constant attacks on the mining company. In this sense, the company has denounced that 39 people among collaborators and artisanal miners have been killed by criminal gangs that took control of Patas. In Brazil, the police arrested 2 people suspected of planning an attack on a concert of U.S. singer Lady Gaga in Rio de Janeiro. The suspects, including teenagers, are linked to an organization that spread hatred against the LGBTQI+ community, the singer's main audience in the event. The group intended to generate chaos by using homemade bombs and Molotov cocktails at Lady Gaga's concert in Copacabana, which gathered around 2.1 million attendees. The free show was held under a heavy security operation with more than 5,000 police officers deployed. Thus, it was considered a success as no serious incidents were recorded. In other news, along the Colombia-Panama border, the jungles and native peoples of the Darien Gap region face an environmental crisis. In 2021, the region became the epicenter of an unprecedented migratory crisis with 1.2 million vulnerable people crossing. While this flow of people has virtually disappeared, the region now faces unforeseen environmental consequences. Authorities estimate 2,500 tons of garbage have been accumulated in the Darien Gap and that it would cost around $12 million just to clean it up. Meanwhile, criminal groups have exploited their control of the migratory routes to carry out illegal gold mining, logging and coca production in the dense jungle.
We don't bathe there anymore. When you bathe there, you get itchy rashes. And for the children, it's even more dangerous for them. Why? Because the water is polluted. There is a lot of garbage.
Culturally, fishing is our way of life. And now, when we go fishing, we are practically eating fish full of gasoline, and that affects our health.
Now we have a short break coming up, but first, remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. Vatican authorities are finalizing preparations for the celebration of the conclave in the Sistine Chapel, where 133 cardinals will gather to elect a new pontiff on May 7th. The Holy See has announced that 2 bonfires and a chimney have been set up at the site to emit the white smoke that signals the appointment of the successor of the late Pope Francis. Until an agreement is reached, the black smoke will continue to be emitted. The test will consist of 4 daily votes, 2 in the morning and 2 in the afternoon. If necessary, a direct and obligatory second ballot will be held between the 2 cardinals who received the most votes in the previous ballot. In all cases, a 2/3 majority will be required. And on Monday, during his state visit to Russia, Cuban President Miguel Díaz-Canel laid a wreath at the Motherland Monument at the Pizka-Rovskoye Cemetery in the city of St. Petersburg. The cemetery contains a total of 186 mass graves, where the bodies of 420,000 inhabitants of the former Leningrad are buried, as well as 70,000 soldiers who defended the city. The Cuban president arrived in Russia on Sunday to take part in the events dedicated to the 80th anniversary of the victory over Nazism in the Second World War. Díaz-Canel was received upon his arrival in St. Petersburg by the governor of the city, Alexander Beglov, with whom he will share an intense agenda that includes visits to important scientific centers. Spanish authorities reported that thousands of people were affected as a result of the sabotage to a high-speed train network in different parts of the province of Toledo. The Minister of Transport and Sustainable Mobility, Oscar Puente, detailed that 4 robberies were registered within a radius of 10 kilometers. The Civil Guard has already started an investigation and asked for citizen collaboration to obtain information about those responsible. According to preliminary data from the Railway Infrastructure Administrator and the Ministry of Transport, the thieves stole approximately 300 meters of copper cable, which caused more than 6,300 passengers on 18 trains to be affected on the Madrid-Sevilla high-speed line. In Germany, the conservative-led coalition signed on Monday a governing agreement ahead of the start of a new Chancellor Friedrich Merz term in office. In this way, Merz's party, the Conservative Christian Democratic Union, signed a 144-page deal with the Christian Social Union and the center-left Social Democrats. The agreement, announced on April 9th after a round of coalition talks, paves the way for the swearing-in of the new government on Tuesday, May 6th. The coalition is set to further far-right Alternative for Germany party from governing, in a context where the opposition bloc is filing a lawsuit against the German intelligence agency after being labeled as right-wing extremist. We go now to the United States as candidates aligned with Donald Trump and the extreme right have suffered a heavy defeat in the local elections in Texas. Last Saturday, May 3rd, municipal elections were held in the state of Texas for the purpose of electing city councilmen, school board members, and other local representatives. Elected officials play a crucial role in addressing local needs, from education to public safety to community development. In this context, voters statewide decisively rejected extremist candidates and elected leaders who prioritize public education, inclusion, and pragmatic governance over culture wars and partisan agendas. Also in the U.S., President Donald Trump announced in an interview his intention to negotiate with China, but without contemplating the idea of tariff reductions just yet. The U.S. head of state admits the impact of his tariff war, but says that he will not give in until achieving an agreement that benefits the United States. Following that line, Trump refused China's demand for tariff reduction to end trade war, although he did not rule out lowering tariffs only if it benefits U.S. companies and businesses. For his part, Chinese President Xi Jinping left the door open with the United States, but insisted that any agreement must be on equal terms. In also this context, President Donald Trump ordered the expansion and reopening of the Alcatraz maximum security prison, where he intends to hold the country's most violent prisoners. On a post on his Truth Social profile, the head of state announced that he has ordered the Federal Bureau of Prisons, in collaboration with the Department of Justice, the Department of Homeland Security, and the Federal Bureau of Investigation, to reopen the Alcatraz high-security prison that was closed over 60 years ago, which is located on Alcatraz Island off the coast of San Francisco in California. Trump also suggested that undocumented immigrants could be sent there.
Where did you get the idea for reopening Alcatraz?
Just an idea I've had, and I guess because the judges, so many of these radicalized judges, they want to have trials for every single, think of it, every single person that's in our country illegally, that came in illegally. That would mean millions of trials, and it's just so ridiculous what's happening. And it's long been a symbol, Alcatraz, of whatever it is. I mean, you know, it's a sad symbol, but it's a symbol of law and order. And, you know, it's got quite a history, frankly. So I think we're going to do that, and we're looking at it right now.
We have a second short break coming up, but before, we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English. There you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverages, and much more. Follow our page and activate the notification button to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome back from the south. The Israeli government has unveiled a plan to expand its military operations in Gaza in the coming weeks, taking over aid deliveries to the devastated Palestinian enclave. The plan, which was approved at a security cabinet meeting on Sunday, furthers the Zionist regime's genocidal operation on the enclave. Reportedly, the proposal would involve an offensive to move the Gaza population south. In addition, the plan proposes the military be in charge of administering food and other vital supplies to the 2.3 million people suffering under its siege of the Palestinian territory. Israel renewed its bombardment of Gaza after breaking a short-lived ceasefire, with troops reinforcing kilometer-deep buffer zones along the perimeter and blocking the entry of humanitarian aid and food to the Strip. In this context, the United Nations, together with Palestinian and international organizations, rejected the Israeli plan of action, which they asserted would prevent the most vulnerable from getting it. Through a statement, the entities noted that much of Gaza will remain without supplies, in violation of the humanitarian principles of humanity, impartiality, independence, and neutrality. It further added that Israel's intention was to tighten up control over basic needs as a pressure tactic or as part of a military strategy. The Netanyahu administration has maintained a full siege on the Palestinian enclave for 64 days, subjecting the population to starvation. The United Nations called for senior European Union officials to face charges of complicity in war crimes for their support of Israel's aggression towards Gaza. A complaint against the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, was filed at the International Criminal Court in May of 2024 for complicity in war crimes and crimes against humanity in Gaza. UN reporter Francesca Albanese also said that she has been working on a coverage exposing banks, pension funds, technology companies, and universities' involvement in Gaza's destruction. The Israeli forces have stepped up its lethal attacks after breaking a 2-month ceasefire on March 18th, so that it had imposed a complete siege on humanitarian aid, electricity, food, and water since March the 2nd. Meanwhile, Yemeni authorities denounced a new U.S. and U.K. aggression in which at least 15 civilians were killed in the city of Sana'a. The airstrikes hit a densely populated area in the Shuhud district east of the capital. The health ministry added that one person was also wounded after a bombing north of Sana'a. During the same day, the United States mounted an incursion into the governorates of Sana'a, Saada, Marib, and Al-Waf, with at least 21 airstrikes. The Pentagon claims to having attacked over 800 targets in Yemen since March 15th of this year. In other news, in Syria, an attack on a nightclub in Damascus killed one person and injured others, the second such incident in the past 24 hours. According to local media, a group of armed extremists opened fire inside the Kawan club near the central square of Al-Hijaz. This event comes almost a day after a similar one at the Club Night of the East in Al-Muhafza Square, where the attackers beat and chased the men and women out of the place. Since the fall of the government of Bashar al-Assad, the number of extremist actions against religious minorities, alcohol shops, and bars has increased significantly. Vietnam's National Assembly has prepared for a 37-day session to address key decisions for the country's future. Secretary General Le Quang Tung announced that the parliament would debate and vote on 3 constitutional resolutions, 51 draft laws, and 14 thematic blocks related to socio-economic issues, the state budget, and government supervision. One of the main affairs would be the vote on the resolution on the merger of provincial administrative units and the creation of the National Electoral Council. A nationwide popular consultation on the constitutional reform would also be held from May 6 to June 5th in order to involve citizens in the crucial process for the future of the country. Since 1994, the Cuban Romerías de Mayo have convened the World Festival of Artistic Youth, which brings together in Holguín the best creators and artists from the island and in other countries to celebrate Cuban culture in all its manifestations. Our colleague Jordanis Rodriguez with more information.
Every May, when spring arrives, in eastern Cuba, Holguín becomes the capital of young art. The May pilgrimage, or Romerías de Mayo in Spanish, in its 32nd edition, are dedicated to cultural industry in favor of brotherhood and solidarity among nations.
It has been really incredible. I hadn't had the opportunity to participate before, but it was really wonderful.
I haven't seen something so big culturally. It is a whole week. I hope it never sleeps so I don't have to sleep and can enjoy it.
Thus began what has become over time the World Festival of Artistic Youth. From the modern part of the city to the historic center, the national and foreign participants joined the inaugural parade.
We have approximately 30 countries here, invited to the pilgrimages. Some of them are Canada, Mexico, Italy, Venezuela.
With the premise of integrating tradition and modernity in defense of the identity values of our peoples, the Association Hermanos Saiz joins the voices of several parts of the world because, as its motto reaffirms, there is no today without yesterday to continue creating in favor of culture.
Super cool. The Cuban spirit is like that, and we have to show it to the world. All the arts come together, for every taste, every color.
The magnificence of Cuba, where culture is united and becomes one. It is the theme of pilgrimages. I go to the hill in the company of the people as part of the tradition.
From today, this also becomes a space to debate about this war and the constant struggle against the cultural colonization to which they try to subject us. From Holguín, we defend the cultural traditions, the identity of the peoples.
Estamos aquí en Holguín, en el balcón de Fidel, donde le habló otra vez.
We are here on Fidel's balcony, where he spoke to this city once, that we would make it possible to defend a dream, to multiply universities, to make a country that not only resists, but that will be able to pass once again all the tests, beyond all the dreams, this enormous island, once again beacon of this continent. I hope that another day many will join us, and the world will be one.
The pilgrims reached the hill of Vallado or Loma de la Cruz. They climbed some 462 steps. It was from this point that Pope Francis blessed the city in 2015 when he visited Cuba. The young artist absorbed the Catholic tradition when a Franciscan friar carried a wooden cross up the hill. For 32 years, the axe of Holguín has been carried on the shoulders of these walkers, and on the last day of the pilgrimage, the same axes traveled through the city on the highest mountain point of the city as part of the celebration of joy.
Camarógrafo Eddie de la Pera y Jordanis Rodríguez Laurencio, teleSUR, Holguín, Cuba.
Like this, we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also join us on social media. We are on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and also on TikTok. For teleSUR English, my name is Belén de los Santos. Thank you for watching.